You know what I should do? I didn't even start. I didn't even do an opening.
No, you didn't do like an intro or anything, though.
Yeah, I have to do all that stuff. So here we go. Hold on a second. Let me do this.
Yeah, take a breather.
I'm resizing the frame and stuff. I'm doing all kinds of stuff over here.
Oh man, this list is gonna be tough.
Well, you know what? It's fluid, John. Just remember that at all times. The wide receiver list is fluid. Welcome back to another episode of the Always Sunday Football Podcast. I'm Dave, joined as I always am by Anthony. How you doing, Anthony? Nice t-shirt.
Thank you. Thanks to you, buddy.
Great for the wide receiver show. Really like it. John, how's it going, man?
Doing well.
Awesome. Let's talk some wide receivers, fellas. Let's rank some pass catchers in the NFL for the upcoming season. Now, just as we like to do, we do random drug testing here on the Always Sunday Football Podcast.
Oh, fuck.
And here's how it is. We just have to do one real quick one right now. Both of you guys have been randomly selected for drug testing to see if you're on any kind of really bad substances. Do each of you already have Justin Jefferson ranked as your number one receiver?
Oh, okay. Yes.
John?
I thought I was going to get handed like a...
Yeah, I think that's an easy one, man. Generational talent.
So then we can just go and say that none of us are on any hard damaging drugs because we all have Justin Jefferson ranked at number one. Okay, so cool. So we can move on to number two. Hey, John, who's your number two receiver this year coming off the board?
Jamar Chase.
Anthony, where do you have Chase?
I have him at number 3.
Interesting. I have him at number 2 also. So, John, go ahead and talk about Chase.
I mean, you're talking Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, probably arguably this generation's Jerry Rice, the Calvin Johnsons of the world. That's how talented these guys are. And with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that might be the best combination I've ever seen in terms of this younger generation is that Jamar Chase to Joe Burrow. And he just continues to get better and better. Just a big body, knows where to be in the field, and he's absolutely dominating elite corners in the league. We've seen it time and time again, and that's why he's easily my number 2, even with T. Higgins behind him.
I like him at number 2 also. I can't say that he's the best. It's the best quarterback receiver duo I've ever seen, but I am a little older than you. However, this Burrow to Chase connection is legitimate. Like John said, it's, these guys, Jefferson, Chase, it is that like generational talent type thing. Don't need to say too much more about it. What I really want to know is, Anthony, who you got at number 2?
Cooper Kupp.
Okay. All right. He's my number 3. John, where's Kupp for you?
Number 3.
Anthony, talk about
it. Last year he was on pace. He possibly outpaced Jefferson before the injury. It doesn't not that it could have been, but he had just as good as a year up until the injury, and he's the only option they have really on that offense, on that receiving core, and that's the reason why I just had to push him above Chase, just because, like John said at the end, even though Higgins is there, but that's because the reason I had to push him to 2. There's just he's the volume and upside and what he can do and the talent that he is, the route runner that he is. As long as he's healthy and there's somebody throwing a ball to him.
Fair. Very fair. John, who do you got at 4 after Kupp?
I'm going with Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill is the fastest guy in the NFL.
He's a cheetah, bro.
And I honestly think that his value is even more high with having somebody just as fast as him with Jalen Waddle. So I think that's the reason why he's my number 4. I actually might have the Miami Dolphins as being a top 5 offense this season. And why not get the number 1 wide receiver, Tyreek Hill? I have him ranked at number 4. Easy.
Yeah, we all do. I think that's an easy agreement there. The interesting thing becomes where you rank Waddle, I think. So I can't wait to see where we all have Waddle slotted in. But my number 5 wide receiver on this list, this was a tough one for me because I have personal preference, but I went with Stephon Diggs at number 5 because he is a top-tier receiver. elite, and he's the clear, far and away number one option on his team for offense with a top tier quarterback. So he got a couple of edges there. Anybody else want to throw Diggs out there?
Same. He's even though with all the skepticism going on and all the chatter, he's still a fucking absolute legend out there on that field in the fields. There's nobody else. Gabe Davis was just them hyping him up like a good old stock market. This is gonna be really good. This is the next thing. Crash. Okay. I do like their twin tight end situation. I do think that they're going to do some really cool things with that, but he's still, like you said, still elite. And the person that is probably your 6 is probably my 6, and we had the same argument. And the only reason I put Diggs ahead of this person was because of the fact that they're, yet again, same thing, a cup of a head chase, just because they are the only option.
Roger that. I think we know who we're going to talk about. But, John, who do you have at your number 5?
Yeah, I went the same with you with Stephon Diggs. Just as an elite quarterback, the only receiver there. They haven't figured out a run game. Stephon Diggs is easily number 5 on this list, just based on the history, how this offense is built. We know who they are, and we know who Josh Allen is, and we know who Stephon Diggs is. Top five quarterback, top 5 wide receiver, easy.
Who's your next receiver, John? Number 6.
I'm going to go with Devontae Adams on this list. And hear me out on this. I just think that he's an absolute stud. I've had him before. I've owned him when he was in Green Bay. Since he's been on the Raiders, obviously the production has slightly went down. But this guy's an absolute stud. If the Raiders want to win games, you know who they need to throw the ball to? Devontae Adams. I have them being a little bit more competitive than they were last year. If not, Josh McDaniels is definitely going to get fired this year. So if Josh McDaniels wants to win games and possibly keep his job, he's going to have to use Devontae Adams. And somehow, some way, Josh McDaniels is going to give him the ball. So I'm going to go number 6, Devontae Adams.
All right. I'm much lower on Adams. Anthony, where's Adams on your list?
He's 8.
8. Okay. See, John has him at 6. You have him at 8. I have him at 10.
Well, I mean, listen, you can't. The guy
he's purely talented. I think the problem is his situation.
The best receiver in the league. You know what I mean? He could argue for being the best receiver in the league.
His situation is
he led the league last year in touchdowns. Will he do that again? No, but he had 100 catches, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. He led the league in touchdowns.
Yeah, when John said that his production declined, that was a complete non-fact.
I had to immediately look up because I know I had
non-fact.
I was like, he made my life. He made me.
Yeah, no, he had an awesome season this year. I just think that his situation has declined so precipitously with the quarterback, and right. I just don't trust it. And so I had to drop him down a little bit. Anthony, who's your number 6? Let's go back.
It's yet again one of those names I'm not going to want to say, but I don't want to hop into number 7, so I'll just say that this is A.J. Brown.
And I will pick up and say that I also had A.J. Brown ranked at 6, and the reason why he's behind Diggs for me is what we talked about earlier, is that he's got a little more competition for targets. He's got Devonta Smith, he's got Dallas Goedert. He's not the only dude like he was in Tennessee. When he was in Tennessee and putting up numbers, you knew, like when I
he was the only 10 you saw.
He was the only 10 I saw because it was just him, and he was the only 10 that Ryan Tannehill saw. And so, okay, Anthony, who's number 7? Since you wanted to get past A.J. Brown so quickly.
Well, because it follows up with somebody I want to get passed up pretty quickly too, and that's CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, okay, CeeDee Lamb. I also had CeeDee Lamb at 7. Anthony, talk about him.
CeeDee Lamb, another guy just gets open. He's the number 1 receiver. Dak's very, very great and comfortable with him. They have good chemistry. Last year. They had I had to watch, some games that I didn't want to watch. But the way he throws it to him in perfect synchrony, I hate it. But I do think he could finish higher, but I think Brandon Cooks is going to be excitingly and worked into the mix. But Yeah, I had to work in CeeDee Lamb there at 7. I think he has just the potential to do it.
John, where's Lamb on your list?
CeeDee Lamb is number 10 on my list.
Wow. Interesting. How come he fell so far for you?
So the reason
Or
why that
it's
is,
the offensive coordinator. It's Schottenheimer, isn't it?
yeah, it's an offensive coordinator.
Can you show us on the doll where he hurt you?
Yeah, just like also like just Dak and having a new OC, and they're going to be so-called more balanced. I don't think this team's going to be scoring as many points as people think. Honestly, I have the Dallas Cowboys as probably being one of the bigger disappointment offenses, and I'm just not high on the Dallas offense this year. So therefore, I'm sliding CeeDee Lamb to number 10.
Okay. My dog didn't like that. Ernie
He
was
must
like,
be a
"This is
Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. He likes the classics. No, I will say, yeah, Lamb is a guy who I was very much scratching my head and seeing if I could maybe knock him down a little bit more, but I just didn't want to seem I didn't want to like be blind to the facts of what they've already produced together. John, who's your number 7?
Number 7 for me is AJ Brown for me. And I was between AJ Brown and Devontae Adams. I was actually flip-flopping between them, and I was like, AJ Brown, but like AJ Brown has this. And the reason why AJ Brown is number 7 for me is he's the best wide receiver. He's probably the best offensive weapon that they have in Philadelphia. However, there are other pieces around there, and they're just a really well-balanced offense. So AJ Brown is going to have another productive year. He slides as my number 7.
Who's your 7?
My number 7 was CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, okay.
My number 8 is the guy who I was thinking about him at number 7, and that is, again, I was just kind of, we haven't seen it yet, and that's Garrett Wilson from the Jets. I think Garrett Wilson is poised to have a huge year this year if things go well, and a huge year the following year, as long as he's your number 9.
Yeah.
John, who's your number, or rather, where do you have Garrett Wilson?
Garrett Wilson is also my number 8 as well.
Okay. All right. Talk about him a little.
I just think that this is his breakout year. I think Rodgers is going to absolutely fall in love with the kid. Just building the chemistry. Might take a little bit of time, but it looks like Aaron Rodgers has not attended minicamp and OTs, and looks like they're building a relationship. And Garrett Wilson is absolutely talented. He'll have Aaron Rodgers to throw, to be catching balls from Aaron Rodgers. So Garrett Wilson easily is a top 10 wide receiver in my opinion. There's no reason why not.
Do you want to hear a funny stat?
Yes.
Garrett Wilson had more yards last year than Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Well, Chase missed a few games, right?
The quarterback situation.
Well, yeah. No. Look, the fact that he won the Rookie of the Year is completely ridiculous, and now that he has a professional quarterback, like a legitimate professional NFL quarterback,
he's got to make the top 10 in any list.
My goodness, yeah. I'm excited to see how his season goes. I'm excited for him. John, who's your number 9?
My number 9 is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Same.
My number 9.
10.
I'm going to say this. Detroit's defense is going to stink. They're going to be, I'm telling you, streamer of the year. Anybody that plays the Detroit Lions, your team's dropping like 30 on them.
They picked up 2 good defensive players, but they really pretty much focused on the offense continuously.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is dope, dude. And it looks like Jared Goff has got that offense clicking. Good chemistry, can put points up on the board, and they're going to be forced to do that in a lot of games this year. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, in my opinion, just based on volume and being the stud that he is also, he's my number 9.
So now we're all caught up through each other's 10. And so, Anthony, who's your number 11?
My 11, 12, 13 is pretty sweet. So my number 11 is Jalen Waddle.
Oh, so I know why it's sweet because it's all second receivers.
Yeah, man. Those are the three teams that have two receivers in the top 15.
I have Waddle in my 11 spot as well. John, where's your Waddle?
I have Waddle at 12.
John, where's your Waddle? That's got to be a thing. John, where's your Waddle?
Anthony, talk about Waddle a little bit.
Waddle.
Waddle.
You have Waddle and Hill next to each other. There's no. It's one person or the other who you double cover in that route and who's getting open. As long as if Tua stays healthy the whole year, with some miracle, then the Waddle finishes the same they did last year. Hill finished third last year. Waddle finished seventh.
Yeah, he's just a fucking stud, straight up.
But then,
John?
question is, does their run game was like a little hot, a little missy? So if Dalvin Cook goes there, does that change up that receive a little bit, right? So
no, it does. I think it just helps. It helps because it doesn't remove from what they already do, and it makes the defense have to respect another feature. And I think that's a big deal. John, what do you got on Waddle?
Yeah, I have Waddle as my number 12. And the reason why that is because I just think this team's going to be a top 5 offense, and Jalen Waddle is going to get his. He's going to be one of those players that might even jump in the top 10 with being two wide receivers that end up in the top 10. So Jalen Waddle can easily slide into that number 10 just based on how this offense is going to click and obviously Tua's health.
So who's your number 11?
Number 11 for me is going to be T. Higgins.
Oh, baby.
T. Higgins could be a number 1 in a lot of different teams. I mean, it's crazy that we think, Jamar Chase. Like, did you forget this dude T. Higgins could be a number 1 in a lot of different teams? I also think the offense is another top 5 offense in my opinion, and he honestly is the third option in that team. I mean, obviously we know Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon gets his, and then number 3 would be T. Higgins getting his work. So
I think T. Higgins is above Joe Mixon on the pecking order. Anthony, who's your 12?
My 12 is Devontae Smith.
Oh, okay. So you went Smith and then Higgins?
Yeah, Higgins 13.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. Talk about Smith. Or talk about Higgins first and then talk about Smith.
Yeah, I just ran out of talk about Smith. No, Higgins, it's anything. It's the same scenario. You have Chase, two wide receiver ones on the same field at the same time. That's a problem. I would love T. Higgins on the Giants. I would love it. I think he'd probably do worse, but I'd love it.
Yeah, I mean, he would be like I didn't want to say it when John said he could be a number 1 on most teams. I was going to suggest that the Giants would be a pretty good team for him, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
It doesn't, because they don't have a definite, like I said, a wide receiver 1. They have a bunch of just guys doing different things.
They have a bunch of guys who are definitely not wide receiver ones.
They have a bunch of threes.
So Higgins. Are you done on Higgins?
Oh no. Then John, I want to keep going to Higgins. We doing John speak.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, let me mention that I had Higgins at 13 and Smith at 14. John, where do you have Smith?
I have Devontae Smith at number 13. So I have T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle.
All bunched together. When you think about them,
all bunched up together. And here's my reason why I ranked it that way. T. Higgins, in my opinion, is the most talented. Well, first of all 3 of these guys are all on great offenses, number 1. Number 2, how are they used and what are their talent levels? And I think that's what I narrowed it down to. So I went T. Higgins, definitely the better wide receiver out of the bunch. I'm going to go number 2, Jalen Waddle, and then number 3, Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith is an actual number 2 legit, but Jalen Waddle could possibly slot into that on a team. He could be like more of like a CD Lamb-ish kind of guy. But I just think they're just all in great offenses, and that's why I ranked them that way.
I think Waddle ranks above Higgins for me as far as pure like players. I think Waddle is just the better player. Higgins was a 2nd round NFL draft pick. Waddle was like the 5th pick in the draft. Waddle's, I think, a better receiver. So I had Waddle and then I had somebody else, and then Higgins and Smith. You guys ranked those 3 in a row. I put my number 12 receiver is Chris Olave, because Olave, he had just as good of a rookie season essentially as Garrett Wilson, but he didn't win the award, and he's the only guy on his team. Michael Thomas might come back, but probably not. So Chris Olave snuck right in there as my 12th receiver. You said he's your 14th, Anthony?
Yeah.
Where do you rank for you, John?
Same. Chris Olave, 14.
Roger that. Anybody got anything fun about him, Anthony? Any cool stats?
No, I only knew when he was on my fantasy team, and then I had a good value trade out of him. But no, like you said, he's the only real option. I do think that Juwan Johnson is like a person to take the touchdowns away from him. But when it comes to those catches, he's getting 10 targets a game. The volume is there for him. He's the clear number 1 by miles. And then if there's an option, there's their tight end. With a run situation that's still a little sketch. He's got all the volume possibility. Very, very high ceiling for him. Coming off a rookie year, going sophomore year, that's what you want to see.
With Derek Carr, a legitimate NFL quarterback. I mean, he's not great, but he's a legitimate quarterback, better than what they had last year with Andy Dalton and whatever the fuck. But yeah, I think that he should be pretty dope. John, who's your 15?
15th, you know it. Amari Cooper.
Oh, yeah, Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper and number 15.
I was going to say, John's boy is my next guy.
Yo, I love me some Amari Cooper, bro. The guy's dope. And I'm going to be honest with you. If Deshaun Watson can make a leap this year, we could be talking about Amari Cooper sliding in that top 10 as well. Because we don't know what Deshaun Watson is going to be. We know what he was. We know he didn't look that good. Having an offseason to, get a chance to build a team. We'll see what happens. But Amari Cooper is number 15, just based on talent. The only guy, he's miles away from the next wide receiver. So Amari Cooper, number 15 for me.
Anthony, anything to add?
Yeah, he finished wide receiver. Where is it? Wide receiver 8 last year. He was in the top 10 last year. He had 78 catches, 1,160 yards, 9 touchdowns.
A bet against Amari Cooper equals a bet against Deshaun Watson, which is what I made. I ranked Cooper number 19. He was number 19 on my list. I just don't think Deshaun Watson has it. And
it's not that far.
I mean, you guys have him at 15. I have him 4 spots behind, which to me, considerable amount, whatever the case may be. I just don't think Watson's going to be quite as sharp. Those numbers you mentioned with him, wide receiver 8, he was way higher than that. And then Watson came in and squashed out a lot of his numbers because they didn't put up any good games together. It was all with Jacoby Brissett. So until I see it with them on the field together, I'm still reluctant. My 15, I thought John was going to say this guy, DK Metcalf, because he's a big DK guy. So my 15 was DK Metcalf. I think that Geno gives him enough juice to put up another nice season. He could even be higher than that if things break right. But I think 15 is a pretty decent rank for DK. Feels low now that I'm saying it, but going for it. John, who's your 16?
DK as well.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anthony? Keenan Allen.
Ooh.
That's your boy.
This guy, Kellen Moore, man. Come on. Give me that Kellen.
Listen, they have a lot of options right now. You got that's another team that has 2, Mike Williams and a Keenan Allen that they can make a first
round pick. They
got that first round. But for me, Keenan Allen's the safe goat when he's out there. He's the target king. I think this is his last really, really, really good year. I think he's got these 2 guys out there. They got to fight for some targets, and he's coming off a little banged up. Maybe he's a little relaxed and healed up. I got to have my boy Keenan out there. I'm so heavy on the Chargers this year. I think they're just gonna come back real hard.
Draft the entire team.
Well, I already have one player.
John, where you have Allen?
I have Keenan Allen at 19.
19. Okay, I have him at 21. So you and I are a little bit closer together. Anthony, I can understand why you're a little more bullish on him, just because you've always been a lifelong Chargers fan. It's just the way it always has been. My 16th ranked player is Calvin Ridley. This is the answer to that question we were talking about before with regards to who you invest in this offense. Is it Ridley? Is it Christian Kirk? Is it someone else? And so I slotted it Ridley in at 16 here. Just trusting that he'll go back to, again, we project 17 games, fully healthy, top tier, and he's better when they're all at their best. He's better than anybody else on that team. That's my opinion on that. Anthony, who's your number 17?
I have Brandon Ayuk.
Interesting. Very interesting. That's funny because I wrote down that's kind of where I started thinking about the 49ers as well. Go ahead, talk about it.
Everybody's in, not going on with the quarterback situation, but Purdy came out there and he held it down. That's your boy. I don't want to disrespect him. To me, you have Debo Samuel on there, okay, but Ayuk to me is the better receiver, where Samuel's the guy you could just mess or throw around and use around, and that's Purdy's number one guy. He finished wide receiver 15 last year, so I think that he's just going to be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Anthony. I think he's for sure the best receiver on that team, the best wide receiver on that team. But I had Debo in my list instead of him because I just think fantasy points are fantasy points. You know what I mean? And Debo might end up catching more fantasy points, or shouldn't say the word catching, but ending up with more fantasy points because he rushes, he does this, he does that, he does all these gadget things within the San Francisco offense. So I had Debo at 20. And Ayuk was left out of my list, and I feel dirty about it because he's been my guy this whole time. I was trying to figure out where, because I had him written in, and then I crossed him out, and I wrote whoever I wrote, and then I came back later and convinced myself to put in Debo instead. John, do you have Debo or Ayuk on your list?
I have Debo on my list at 20, and Ayuk on my list at 31.
Wow. 31. Oh, okay, interesting.
That's disrespectful.
We're not talking about. We're only doing up to top. But
yeah,
he was
24. But yeah, well, Ayuk. I'll say this: Ayuk would have been in my top 36 for sure. He would have been just out. He probably would have been in my top 30 if we're talking about that. But regardless, John, who do you have at number 17?
DJ Moore. Yep, we all forgetting about this guy, DJ Moore. He's an absolute stud, and he finally has a quarterback that needs to develop, and why not? DJ Moore is really taking a leap of faith in his career, and I think DJ Moore is poised for a very big season.
Anthony, is DJ Moore on your list?
No.
Interesting.
Wow,
I have
that's
him
crazy.
I have him at 23.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy to have him off the list, especially if we're only doing 24, because of the pass volume, right, Anthony? Or I mean,
you have to look at there's so many things, because you can start a list off the top of your head to just write 30 names to then, or you know what I mean, and then you got to start remembering these other guys, and there's so much to factor in.
I have him at 23, and my 22, who we haven't spoken about yet, and my 23 are both guys back to back who I'm like, I fucking love these guys, but I just don't think they're going to get enough fucking targets. You know what I mean? Just because of the nature of the offense. So for me, my 17th ranked player, before we get to all that, my 17th ranked player is a guy who John would not rank because he's too much of a professional, and that's DeAndre Hopkins. I put him at 17 because he deserves to be in the top 20. He belongs in the top 24. Because he's that good. I just don't know where he's going to be yet. He can move up or down on this list because, as John mentioned to us, the list is fluid. But I have DeAndre Hopkins right here. Anthony, where you have him?
I have him at 19.
Okay. Fair. And John, is he on your list or no?
No, I took him off because he's not signed yet. To be determined.
You're such a professional. You can't tell Johnny doesn't have integrity. I'll tell you that. Who's your 18th rank?
McLaren from Washington.
He was my 25. Go ahead.
I'm going to be honest with you. I really like the enemy there, and I really think that McLaren's going to be the one that benefits the most from the enemy offense. I'm just not sure about this quarterback, man. I'm just not.
Bingo.
I honestly think that the coaching is going to be there. I don't think these guys are going to shit themselves. I just don't think that these guys are going to be as talented as they say they are. I think that they're going to make a little bit less mistakes, but Terry McLaren is going to love Eric Bieniemy's offense, and that's why he is ranked within my top 20.
Anthony, is he in your 24?
He's in my 24.
What number is he?
21.
Oh, okay, cool. Talk about him.
He's a stud athlete. He's a great receiver. The question is the quarterback situation, but they're going in there with Sam Howell. They seem okay with it.
Who?
No, you have to do it. You're not pronouncing it right, John. It's oh.
All right. Listen. He's going to get the volume. There you get, like you said, there is a competition there with the Jahan Dotson, but he's the better receiver. He's going to get open. He's going to get the volume.
Yo, that's sneaky. One of the greatest wide receiver duos in the league, bro. Those two guys. Dotson would have been in my top 36.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, Anthony, who is your number 18?
Metcalf.
DK. Oh, DK finally makes his appearance. So you're a little, bless you. You're a little lower on DK than everybody else. Any reason why you think that is?
Oh, just the volume's there, right? With the way Geno played last year, he should have something close to around what that was. And I think like two of those receivers are in my top 24.
Seattle. Yeah, me too.
So
I think that's responsible.
I think I just a little lower just because Njigba is now thrown in the mix there. I think kind of just spread it around a little more.
Fair enough. My 18 is Jerry Jeudy, who was in a bad situation last year. The coaching situation is a million times better this year. I think that Sean Payton should be able to manage Drew Brees. Sorry, not Drew Brees. So he wishes.
Right.
We all wish.
I wish
should be able to manage
Judy would have
Russ
been.
Wilson. Yeah. So I'm imagining that Peyton maximizes Judy, and so I had to pop him in right here at 18. He could slide up or down depending on what we see from preseason. If Russ Wilson has his shit together or not, we'll find all that out. But Judy is interesting to me. I slid him in here at 18. Anthony, you're 19.
My 19 is Marcus Brown.
Oh, Hollywood! Hollywood did not make my list. Talk about him.
Yeah, well, Judy didn't make mine. I was like, that was actually like I love Judy. He's such a great talent. I was like that all that chatter of him going to the Giants. Right? Remember they were trying to talk about that. That was a possibility. I'm just so afraid of all of Denver. Like the backfield, I'm away from. It's just I just didn't even want to touch it. The Jerry Judy's talent should be in the top 24, no question. Just I'm not really confident in Denver. But yeah, Marquise Brown, he's really the only other option. I mean, Rondell Moore is something. He's not like a nobody out there, but Marquise Brown had a good year. And then once Hopkins came in, there was just a monster came over and said, "These is my targets now." But there's a lot of room for volume. I think the Cardinals are going to be coming from behind a lot, and they're going to be throwing the ball, and Kyler Murray is going to be playing video games.
Yeah, I mean it's a good pick. I didn't have him in my top 24, but he's a top 36 guy. John, who is your 21st ranked player?
I didn't tell you my 19th.
I believe that your 19th is Keenan Allen.
Yes, correct. Okay, I just want to make sure. My 21st is going to be Calvin Ridley.
Oh, nice. Go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley is going to be the number one wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars will win their division and go back to the playoffs. And a big reason why that's going to be and why they don't win these, chipper games and why they actually, show that they're actually a decent team is going to be Calvin Ridley. I have Calvin Ridley coming back and really playing really, really well. This is a revenge. I want to get back. And I really think that Jacksonville invested in him. Doug Peterson will make use of this guy. So he slots in as my 21st ranked wide receiver.
Interesting. Hey, Anthony, which Jaguars receiver did you settle in, and what number did he make?
I went Kirk 22.
Kirk 22. Interesting. Okay, talk about that decision.
Well, just because any player that, I mean, granted, receiver is a little different than other positions, but still, you're out of the game. Talent. He's still a talented player. He was great on Atlanta. I just think that the chemistry there is already with Kirk. That maybe the just a draw. He could just gonna catch that draw off. They're both gonna have good. They're both potential to be top 25 as well. Ridley and Kirk combo. That's a possibility. I just think just because of the consistent play time together, I got to lean with the time.
Understandable. Yeah, I guess the bet is whether or not Ridley's talent is still at maximum and enough to be like that legit dude.
Yeah, like it's been 2 years probably since he's on the field by the time he starts.
Oh, we lost John. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, who's your 22?
My 22 is Tyler Lockett.
Oh, he's my 24. Anthony, where'd you put him? 24? Okay, John, talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, Geno Smith. That's what I'm going to say. Geno Smith is a legit quarterback one.
Never thought we'd hear that.
It's crazy to say that Geno Smith is legit. Like, we can say that. I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. He's been an absolute professional, been a dope receiver for a really long time. I think that he's got a good year or two left probably of, taking the reign as wide receiver one. So I'm going to slide in Tyler Lockett at number 22.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pick which every year, right? It was like which receiver is going to have the better year, Lockett or Metcalf, right? Last year, Lockett finished 13th. Metcalf with 19th. They both had over 1,000 yards. Lockett had 9 touchdowns. Metcalf had 6. But Lockett's, I think, got a little bit of time on him than Metcalf does, I believe.
Yes.
He plays a game. I think he plays a type of game that is he could play it for a few extra years because he never takes hits. He's that guy who catches the ball and falls on the ground right away. Like he literally, you've seen him. He'll catch the ball and just get down. He'll just give himself up. He doesn't take hits. Yeah. So I had him at 24. He's I had to have DK and Tyler Lockett in there. My 22 and the last person I'll mention off of my list is the other guy who's with passing volume would be way higher on this list. If you knew he was going to catch or get the same amount of targets as these other guys, he would be way higher, and that's Drake London. Drake London,
he was right outside my list. It was hard.
Yeah,
he's a stud.
I just don't know about
stud.
Ritter. I just don't know, and especially I just think they're going to Bijan it all day if they can, and if he ends up being the stud that we see, that they might not need to pass as much, and how much volume will be there. But he is the only guy, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah, I had him and DJ Moore back to back. And then Lockett right behind them. But DJ Moore and he both, to me in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, the offenses are going to score some points. There's a quarterback who we don't know how their passing is going to be. Now, obviously, like Fields, we know he can run, so they're going to have more scoring opportunities, presumably, or could potentially have more. But both of these guys are so fucking good that I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to throw them in there and hope on the talent to win out. So that's my list. Anthony, you've got your 23 left.
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. Okay, never heard of him. Go ahead.
Like I said, I'm high on the Chargers. Last year, my boy Herbert didn't play up to his potential. He had that little injury, and I think it really affected him the rest of the year. The little scar tissue or whatever it was in the chest when you twist, whatever. I think that there's going to be a shit ton of. I think he's going over 5,000 yards in my opinion. I think He's throwing 5,000 yards this season, and that's 3 of those guys are going to be in the top 25 if he's throwing 5,000 yards. And I don't know if the rookie comes in and kind of chews away at both of those receivers because they're both talented. The Mike Williams catch last year was freaking turnaround back, grab it, went on. As long as they can stay healthy, he should.
That's always been his problem, though, staying healthy.
Yeah,
John,
same thing with
Okay,
Keenan.
I have a question real quick. All right, bold statement. Do you think the Chargers could be the number one offense in the NFL this coming year?
It could be.
I think there's no reason why they can't that can't be an argument. Like there's no argument that says that, you know.
That's a soft answer, bro. Just say yes. Say it with your chest, bro. Say
Say it with your chest, bro.
Yeah, they have all the talent on the team for it, so they have the potential.
They gotta stay healthy. The answer is they gotta stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, they could be a top or the top scoring team for sure because they have Eckler, they have Herbert, they have the receiver core that goes 3 deep with talented players who are if they're just each role players, they're all elite role players at their role or top tier role players at their role, if not elite. Yeah, they could easily be, especially with this new offensive coordinator. It's just a matter of if they stay healthy, if they gel, or with the scheme because they've already been playing with each other. Yeah, for sure. Say it with your chest, you damn bitch. And then John, who's your 23?
23 for me is Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, okay. Talk about him a little bit.
Jerry Booty.
Who's been a Jeudy guy?
Well, number one, I've been high on Jerry Jeudy since he's been drafted. I've always been a Jerry Jeudy fan. I was just waiting for him to get the right situation, and I'm like, finally, gets a head coach. I thought it was going to happen last year, and it didn't happen. And he was on my draft board. I didn't draft him last year, but boy, thank you. I didn't draft any Denver Broncos, but I think this year is going to be a little bit different. And if they're going to want to be successful, and they're in a really, really tough division, Denver, if they're going to try to win some games and get that offense, they were the lowest scoring team offense last year. So I think Jerry Jeudy's got to be involved. So I'm going to go with him, number 23.
And close it out. Who's your 24?
Number 24 for me is going to be Chris Godwin. Explain
yourself.
PPR guy. The guy just catches the football. They're going to be a bad team this year, but someone's got to catch the football. And Mike Evans is I've drafted Mike Evans, great receiver, but just every year for some reason, Chris Godwin always beats him in fantasy points. That's because Chris Godwin gets a lot of volume, that slot receiver. And I have Chris Godwin just hitting my 24 ranked.
I didn't have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin in my top 24, and I really need to reevaluate myself in this situation because that's pretty crazy to think about. That I feel pretty decent about my top 24 that's on the screen right now, and I don't have either one of those guys. I don't have any, but I think that's more Baker. That's a Baker thing. That's not a
right. Yeah, because Mike Evans finished 16th last year. Chris Godwin 26th.
Yeah, the statement John made that Godwin always beats him is not correct at all. Because
Mike Evans has the injury situation, then Chris Godwin gets you those blow-up times. But Mike Evans 1,000-yard receiver every time.
He's hit 1,000 in every single season of his career. He
gets 9 years in a row.
Touchdowns. He's awesome. Godwin was a PPR machine with Tom Brady, but not he doesn't have a huge track record, and I don't think he's going to turn Baker Mayfield into an efficient quarterback suddenly. So I'm curious to see how that offense shakes out. Those are two guys that are conspicuously absent from my list. But think about it like this: we each have the Bengals 2 receivers, the Dolphins 2 receivers, the Eagles 2 receivers. We have the Seattle Seahawks 2 receivers. There's several. And you have the Chargers 2 receivers. We have several teams in this top 24 with multiple, good receivers, multiple elite receivers. And then there's teams that just aren't even on this list right now. It's crazy to think
crazy. We haven't talked about
the Giants. There's no Giants on this list.
Yeah, no Giants on this list.
Drake London is on my list.
No Packers.
barely.
Packers.
No Packers. We didn't talk about any Packers.
No Colts.
Correct. You're right.
No
Your
Titans.
boy Pittman. No Titans. It's
No
my guy
Steelers.
Burks.
Yeah,
It's rough.
really.
Yeah, there's teams in this league right now who just they're just missing the mark here. They're missing the mark, and the Jets passed on JSN. Ridiculous, just ridiculous. So I think that'll wrap it up, guys. We had a pretty nice little breakdown here. We're getting good at this, I have to say. And again, there was a lot of crossover, but as we went down the list, obviously, like there's decisions that need to be made, right? Like where do you plant your flag on these certain teams? Like, where do you plant your flag with San Francisco's receivers? Where do you plant your flag with the Jacksonville Jaguars receivers? Where do you plant your flag? Another team we didn't mention is Kansas City. Kansas City's not on this list, and they're going to probably be one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in the entire NFL. Where do you plant your flag aside from Travis Kelce? Do you plant your flag in any receivers in Kansas City? So it should be pretty interesting to see how these things shake out. I remember, if you take away nothing else, I think from this episode, you have to remember that the list is fluid. The list is fluid. So the next episode will probably be a best ball draft. I mean, we've been talking about it. We got to do a best ball draft. So that'll be the next thing we record, but that'll be next time. And I'll see you guys then when it's always Sunday.